Guys, we had a terrible game versus the Wings today. A terrible defeat. Well, ped the referees and pee to Stephanie White. It was simply a poor defeat. The loss was terrible, but today, we'll be discussing some of the two extremely strange calls the officials made at the conclusion of the match. With good reason, Aliyah Boston stormed off the court. Without Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever had come back from a 17-point deficit and were in a strong position to win. But dishonest WNBA officials tore it away in the last seconds. It's bad enough today when the referees are so inconsistent and unskilled, calling things one way for one player and another way for another. It is possible for Paige Bueckers to step on someone's foot. Flagrant foul. The ball is returned after 3 free throws. It's possible for Kelsey Mitchell to step on someone's foot. Just a regular foul, I see. Dallas Wings will take the ball the other way, so go ahead and make your free shots. One of the season's most contentious endings, missed calls, and obvious double standards. We also have the complete breakdown. The conclusion only made sense when you realized how much this team had already been fighting for a shot, so you must first watch how this game descended into turmoil before we get to the call that left Boston upset and their supporters incensed. Naturally, we were watching the Dallas Wings game the other night from a distance, and it was undoubtedly one of the worst officiated games you will ever witness in your life. Well, was there any reason why the Fever should have lost to the Wings? Not at home, please. And should they have been placed on a 190 runs at home by the Fever in life? Never in life. However, that doesn't change the fact that I think we've finally discovered a player in the league with a more unique whistle than A'ja Wilson. None of Indiana's top 3-point guards were available for this game against Dallas. Caitlin Clark has had a groin problem since July. Aari McDonald suffered a broken foot, and Sydney Coulson tore his ACL. Coulson and McDonald's season-ending injuries. This implied that the Fever lacked a natural ball handler, someone to take full court pressure, and someone to manage their offense as intended. The last resort is to move Kelsey Mitchell into lead guard duties instead of her natural scoring role. As a result, she was the original source of every inbound, set, and trip up the court. As a result, Dallas scored 27 points off of 17 turnovers. All I can say is that this is your 9th game of the season, Dallas. The series was won 3-1 by Indiana. They prevailed 3-1. It was far from it. It was far from it. You lost 3-1 because all you had to do was, go 2-2 against a sick team without Caitlin Clark. You were defeated 3-1 by a team led by Caitlin Clark. And for you to win, they had to lose all of their point guards. For you to win, the Fever had to lose all of their point guards, as if that was all that was required. Before the Fever could even set up, they gave the Wings more than 25% of their offensive. However, Indiana retaliated in some way. The Fever outscored Dallas 25-4 in the fourth quarter. Leading the charge with 24 points and 4 of 7 long-range baskets was Kelsey Mitchell. Fails to hear the whistle. Indiana with the opposite numerals. Mitchell is in the corner. Music. Claps Dallas, timeout. As Mitchell cashes in, Chris Clanis is incensed at the Bueckers' attempted layup not being called. With a score of 14 and a dive for loose balls from Aisha Hines-Allen off the bench, Sophie Cunningham played with edge. With a single-digit deficit, Mitchell finds Cutting as he dashes into the lane, and she gets it on a 3. What about Kelsey Mitchell's awareness? Chloe BBE completed all 3 of her attempts in an only 12 minutes, making her perfect from 3. Retrieves it. There are 4 to shoot. Ningham in the corner. By Chloe BBE giving Indiana vitality when they're having a terrible time scoring. When outside shots weren't falling, Aliyah Boston, who was fighting constant contact in the paint, muscled her way to 14 points and kept the Fever's inside game going. For that, this seems like the ideal name. Yes, it does. Boston was able to evade the suit by following. With 3 blocks and a double-double, Natasha Howard served as the defense's mainstay. Indiana had totally changed the outcome of the game by the last minute. The audience stood up. They gained momentum before everything collapsed. With only 11. Indiana was behind by 1 with 7 seconds remaining. Instead of calling their final timeout, they moved the ball up the court after securing a defensive rebound. After being harassed by the Dallas defense, Mitchell made a hotly contested jumper in transition. It didn't make it. Dallas snatched the rebound. At last, Stephanie White used one to call a timeout. There are 7 seconds left. It's really too late to make any significant drawings. He was defeated 81-80. And many are accusing Stephanie White of running the incorrect lineup and essentially failing to call these timeouts. And there was still a possibility for the Fever to win. Stephanie White discarded it. White Stephanie. For instance, I simply don't like Stephanie White. Stephanie White just doesn't appeal to me. I promise that this was intended to be a teaching moment of some kind. I simply detest her to the core. She is the coach of our squad, which I detest. Sincerely, I don't believe Stephanie White is a lousy coach. White acknowledged after the game that I probably ought to have used it in the 3rd second. On the last trip, did you think about taking a break earlier? Was your final shot satisfactory? What was involved in that last? No, I meant that I wanted us to attack and release during transition because I knew it would be a low clock, and we did just that. We had been excellent in transition, therefore I won, and we were in the penalty. Well, when it got to the point where we just started dribbling sideways without attacking, I should have probably used it at the 3-second mark rather than a little later because I thought Kelsey might have had a baseline drive. I didn't like that she ended up returning to the middle, but I did want us to push in transition with a low clock and limited opportunity. Although this incident cost them the game, it was a rare instance of a coach being held publicly accountable. Even if that was awful, it wasn't the night's most contentious moment. Fans and players of the Fever were convinced that this game was stolen because of the final calls, or lack thereof. Make the first call. The Dallas center gripped Aliyah Boston's arm as she struggled for position beneath the rim. Officials whistled Boston for the foul rather than calling the hold. The call was upheld upon review. It's about as plain as it gets, according to presenter Rebecca Lobo, who stated that she expected it to be reversed. Lou is holding Aliyah, Boss's right arm with both hands. At that point, she continued to hook Aliyah Boss's right arm. She's trying to find it. With her right arm, Aliyah is unable to do anything. She is unable to use her right arm. Learu is hooking it up. Learu pivots. Look at Leah's shoulder to see. That is, like her shoulders. LaRue's arm claw is still hooked when the ball is being passed in. Yanks appears to be attempting to pull Aliyah Boss's arm from her shoulder socket. An early foul call is made by the referee. As a result of Leah attempting to pull Aliyah Boston's arm from her shoulder socket, the referee essentially calls a foul. It is referred to as NN1 as AN1 when she attempts to dislocate Aliyah Boston's shoulder. Music. And they literally said, "This is an obvious offensive foul," as they approached the monitor. As if everything were okay, Rebecca. Lobo and Ryan Rort just said, "Yeah, this is an obvious offensive foul. It's obviously an offensive foul," as if they had simply assumed it. Make the second call. Sophie Cunningham's landing space infringement against Paige Beckers resulted in a flagrant foul. Beckers made nearly the exact same mistake earlier in the game, which led to her call being increased to a flagrant. Fever, a former Indiana standout, as Cunningham fouls Beckers from behind. Additionally, they will examine whether this is a UConn offense that is more akin to an equal opportunity offense. She's going to be the main attraction. However, there was no whistle at all when Kelsey Mitchell later absorbed the same impact. Make the third call. Mitchell was held as he came, off the ball in the last minute. She has the exact type of off-ball contact fever that athletes claim occurs during every possession. And nothing has changed. Stephanie White didn't hold back after the game. She told reporters, "Boston is the worst officiated post player in the league. Mitchell is held or chucked on every freaking possession and never gets a call off the ball. If you're going to call it one way, call it both ways." Yeah, I think it was a physical game. I think there's a double standard in how people get their calls. I think Kelsey Mitchell, number 1, is held or chucked on every freaking possession and never gets a call off the ball. I think Aliyah Boston is the worst officiated post player in the league. She never gets a call. There's a double standard there. Certainly, but again, if it's going to be physical and you're going to allow us to be physical, then allow both teams to be physical. If you're going to call the holds and you're going to call the chucks and you're going to then call it both ways. So I think that we've been pretty consistent in what we're asking for. The frustration boiled over. Cunningham was visibly upset after being shoved by Beckers, muttering an expletive before walking away. Even Caitlin Clark, sitting on the bench in street clothes, clapped sarcastically in the direction of referee Amy Bonner after the final buzzer. Boston stepped in during a tense exchange between White and an official visibly angry before Clark placed a calming hand on her. Coach. Afterward, Boston's post-game comments were short but telling. We need better focus. I think the physicality level was a little bit different on both sides of the ball. But for us, really, I think it's got to be our focus. Like, we got to make sure that we're connected on that end. It was both a self-critique and a shot at the officiating. This wasn't just a loss, it was a robbery. Indiana overcame injuries, foul trouble, and turnovers only to be beaten by inconsistent officiating. Dallas is a bottom 3 team expected to be playing for draft position, and the Fever needed this win to stabilize their playoff seeding. Instead, they slid to 6th place with only a handful of games left. One stolen game could be the difference between hosting a playoff series or hitting the road early. The league may or may not address the double standard in officiating, but one thing is clear. Boston's fury wasn't just about one game, it was about a pattern, and the Fever won't forget this. So, what's your take? Should the WNBA review these officials? And did the Fever do enough to win despite the calls? If you're still watching, drop rigged WNBA in the comments so I know you stayed with us to the end. We're back home, baby. Let's go. Back in the W column, I got the challenge. That's a big job, baby. Point guard. Lexi Hall didn't just have a good game, she went nuclear. Lexi, that final 3-pointer kind of felt like the perfect end of that night. If you could just talk to me about the celebration, how much of a relief that was for you just kind of to punctuate like that. Cole, one more 3. Oh, what a sight for Lexi Hall. We believe that every time she shoots it, it's going to go in. But for her to finally feel that and see that and play with so much confidence, it's big for us. When she knocks down shots, we're a different team. Alexia Paul, though, the bucket and the foul. The player who couldn't buy a bucket for weeks suddenly erupted, leading the Indiana Fever to humiliate Angel Reese's Chicago Sky. And here's the twist. They did it without Caitlin Clark and with no point guards available. Like, the Indiana Fever has defeated the Chicago Sky with only 9 damn players on the team. Game we seen tonight. Lexi Hall MVP, bro. I mean, she was hitting threes like it was no. Now, she did have a scary incident in this game where she rolled her ankle and she had a little collision. I'm hoping everything is all right with her, but overall, Lexi Hall looked sensational. So how did the shorthanded team pull off one of the most dominant wins of the season? The Fever's worst nightmare had already begun. Caitlin Clark was sidelined with quad and groin injuries since mid-July with no return date in sight. Then, in the same game against Phoenix, disaster doubled down. Sydney Colson tore her ACL in the first quarter. And here's the hustle right there. And she comes down. Obviously, a really awkward, when she lands on that left. Ari McDonald broke her foot in the 4th. 2 point guards, one night, both out for the season. The trade deadline had passed. No replacements could be signed. The Fever had 0 healthy point guards. All right, who has the Fever's voodoo doll? Because this is getting out of control. It was just announced that Sid Colson and Ari McDonald are out for the season. Sid tore her ACL and AR McDonald broke a bone in her right foot. The Fever cannot catch a break this season. And this is so heartbreaking for these two, especially Ari joining the team midway through the season, not even knowing if she was going to be playing in the W this season at all. Being such a strong contributor to the team, and then Sid having that veteran leadership role, keeping the locker room fun and exciting. I mean, everyone loves Sid. And with these two out, the Indiana Fever officially do not have a point guard. We still have no timetable for Caitlin Clark's return. And at this point, she has missed more games than she's even played. Sophie Cunningham can run the one, but she has been absolutely killing it from the wing. So I would hate to see them try to shuffle her around. And because of league rules, the Indiana Fever can't even sign a hardship player before tomorrow's game. So they currently have 9 players available with no point guard. The Chicago Sky saw their chance. Winless against the Fever all season, this was their revenge game. Indiana came in wounded, undermanned, and vulnerable. Everything pointed to a Sky victory. But that's not what happened. Lexi Hull had been in a nightmare of her own. Her last 2 weeks, a brutal 2 for 25 from 3, hesitating on open looks, confidence slipping away with every miss. Her mother hadn't seen her hit a three since the start of August. After the Phoenix loss, arguably her worst game of the season, Kelsey Mitchell pulled her aside. She told her, "We're counting on you every night." The game in Chicago began when Hall made her first three-pointer early in the first quarter. The ball arced through the air and swished, and Caitlin Clark, who was watching from the bench, jumped up in sheer joy. "Oh, open three." Oh, what a sight for Alexi Hull. She has needed that one to drop. Alexi Hull catching fire. She was celebrating as if she had made the shot herself. That one make changed everything. Hull began hunting for shots, moving without the ball, making reads, and playing free. The bucket and the foul. Yeah, terrific baseline execution. She comes off the curl. She finished 4 for 6 from deep with a season-high 17 points and a plus 22 plus minus. You know, her just adjusting to not starting games coming off the bench. Cunningham draws the defense, rolls in the corner three. Tell you what, this Fever team is going to be very dangerous no matter the roster. Oh, Lexi Ho checking her nape home right now. Every make was celebrated like a championship moment. Aliyah Boston flashed the three-point sign. Sophie Cunningham wrapped Hull in a hug. Chicago had no idea they were witnessing a complete role reversal. With no point guards, Coach Stephanie White turned to Kelsey Mitchell. It was the first time since college she'd had to run an offense full-time. Mitchell's instincts have always been scorer first, but this time she sacrificed her own shots to set up teammates. What a matchup between her and Boston. Something I'm keeping my eye on. Mitchell trying to go one-on-one after getting the handoff. Back to Boston. Sets her feet, nails the jumper. Kelsey Mitchell will stay true to her natural position. And she's been playing so well from there. But she will get some opportunities as she jets by the defender, jumps off to Howard, and Howard for two. The result, a season-high 8 assists to go with her scoring. The adjustment wasn't instant. Early on, you could see her fighting the urge to take over offensively, but then it clicked. She started seeing passing lanes that weren't there before, threading the ball through traffic, setting up easy baskets. She'll be tasked with defending Mitchell. Mitchell coming off the screen trying to grace the separation. Two come dumps it up to Boston. It trickles in. When Chicago played her for the pass, she scored. When they guarded her shot, she found the open teammate. By the end of the game, Mitchell had proven something big. She could run an offense and still be lethal as a scorer. Mitchell tune one. It's a foot race. Mitchell to Cunningham. Cunningham right there for two more. Pointed out the fact that Indiana just 5 turnovers with no true point guard. Mitchell pipes in another triple. Coach White has talked all season about bringing in quality human beings, players willing to sacrifice for the team. This game was proof. Lexi Hull broke her shooting slump. Kelsey Mitchell reinvented her role. Boston anchored the defense. Sophie Cunningham filled gaps everywhere. For the first time, the Fever didn't look like a team relying on one superstar. They looked like a playoff threat with multiple weapons, a group that could win ugly, win shorthanded, and win convincingly. For the WNBA's future, and why standing up for Caitlin Clark now means stepping into a firestorm. This is Candace Parker, and there was a clip that she was on. She was on like a TV show. They're being asked about the Caitlin Clark and Angel Ree rivalry, and as expected, Candace Parker. They have all turned on Candace Parker, and by they, I mean I don't know if they're Angel fans. I don't know. I don't know if they're Angel fans. I don't know how to describe them because I'm like, I don't exactly know if they are Angel Reese fans or if they are just like bullies and want to just bully a 23-year-old from Iowa. The fastest rising star in WNBA history, Caitlin Clark is packing arenas, breaking records, and delivering TV ratings the league hasn't seen before. 4th in MVP voting, rookie season assist record holder, Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. She has surpassed everybody in the amount of time that she has played in the WNBA. She fills up every arena in every town that she goes to. Teams have to go to bigger arenas so they can try to profit off the Caitlin Clark train coming to town. Most 20.10 assist games in WNBA history, which I think you can say that's a good game. Like, that's how you classify. Vanderloot, obviously. 430 games played, had 10 of them. Diane Taurasi people talk about as the GOAT, right? The GOAT. The GOAT. The GOAT. You're damn right. 564. She go to school, Yuka. Okay. 565 games played. She has 9 20-point tennis assist games. And then Caitlin Clark, 41 games played. She already has 9 of them. And it's just like, it was very obvious whenever she was in college that she was different, you know? And she seemed to be more exciting than everybody else. And yet she's still the most targeted player in the game. That's the reality Candace Parker stepped into because in today's WNBA, there's an unwritten rule. If you praise Caitlin without immediately sprinkling in praise for every other player, you're suddenly part of the problem and the mob is ready to pounce. Candace has been steady in her praise of Caitlin for months. Observe your team and see where you can add. Like, Caitlin is one of those people that has a high IQ, so I know she's watching and I know she's going to come back and make you all that much better. So, it honestly is scary because not only are you allowing other people to step up, but you're allowing Caitlin to then survey and realize how she can add. I said from the get-go, Indiana fever scary. But this week, she didn't just defend Clark. She went straight at the critics pushing the better without Caitlin narrative, and that was enough to trigger a storm. ESPN themselves set the tone during All-Star coverage, skipping 2024 ratings comparisons entirely to avoid showing that without Caitlin on the floor, ratings dropped 36%. That wasn't an accident. It's part of a pattern. Downplay her impact. Shift. The focus. Pretend she's not the reason fans are showing up. All-Star game ratings from this past weekend was the second most watched WNBA All-Star game ever behind 2024. No surprise there. The 2025 WB All-Star Game was the most watched program of the night across all of TV. The night, not the day. With 2.22 million average viewers, up 158% from the 2023 WNBA All-Star Game. This is very similar to the WNBA draft, comparing it to 2023. Very similar to how they are presenting this graphic. We all know the most watched ever is because of Caitlin Clark. And we all know that the reason that it's up 158% from 2023 is because of Caitlin Clark. But here's where things really caught fire. On live TV, Candace rated Caitlin Clark as a tier and Angel Reese as key tier. Her reasoning, to be in the top tier, you have to carry a team as a primary option, something Caitlin has already proven she can do. Angel, while an elite rebounder and strong brand builder, hasn't yet matched that level on the court. What's up, fam? Candace Parker here. I'm going to do a tier ranking of WNBA players. I'm going to try. This is where it gets tricky. Caitlin Clark is at an A level. I think in time she's going to raise up to that S, but in order to put her at that level, you gotta have a couple more years. So I'll put Kelsey Plum at the A level. 2-time champ, now took on the challenge to be #1 option in LA. I would say KP is definitely in that tier. And you got Angel Ree. I put her right at that C level. I think in terms of being above, you have to be able to have the ability to carry a team, be a 1 or 2 option. I think Angel Reese is fantastic at her role, which is offensive rebounding. She showed and demonstrated so much growth in that first year. The reaction was instant and brutal. Angel's fans flooded social media accusing Candace of disrespect. Even Cheryl Swoops joined in with thinly veiled shots. Ironically, Candace Parker is in a little bit of a hot seat right now. Yeah, she probably shouldn't go to Chicago. You probably shouldn't send her back to Chicago. But go ahead, Jordan. In this league, if you compliment Caitlin and don't elevate Angel alongside her, you're branded a hater. But Candace wasn't done. She came armed with receipts. The Fever are 8-5 with Caitlin in the lineup and 9-9 without her. Every time the better without Caitlin line comes up, the numbers bury it. She even dismantled ESPN analyst Carolyn Peck's claim that Indiana might be more dangerous without Caitlin by pointing out the obvious. Look, I think that Indiana is even more dangerous when Caitlin Clark doesn't play because she's a ball-dominant guard. The ball's in her hands a lot. So you know what you need to try to take away. But when you look at Indiana now, they've got so many weapons and Kelsey Mitchell is playing out of her mind. Yes, others have stepped up in her absence, but adding Caitlin back only makes them better. That's not hating on anyone. That's common sense. And Candace didn't just hold her ground, she doubled down. When pressed, she asked point blank, "Who are you taking Angel Reese over? Aja Wilson, Caitlin Clark, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, Paige Buchers, and Kelsey Plum? Angel is not a bad player because of the number. It's simply the reality. The facts that I want to bring to this table. And I challenge anybody to tell me, what player are you taking Angel Reese over those that I just listed? But what I'm saying is, in what player, and this is no disrespect, these are the greatest players in the game right now. They asked me to rank the tier right now. And just from my point of view, from my opinion, this was the ranking. And so I ask again, are you taking Angel above Paige? Are you taking Angel above Arik? Are you taking Angel above Sabrina or Kelsey or Caitlin or Asia or Nafiso or Brianna? No, that does not make her a bad player. But in today's WNBA climate, truth comes at a cost. And Candace knew exactly what would happen next. She then turned the spotlight on the players themselves, torching one of the worst All-Star Game performances in recent memory. After players wore "Pay Us What You Owe Us" shirts, the game that followed was flat, slow, and uninspired. Candace called it a missed opportunity, saying the product on the court should have matched the statement on the shirts. I won't say All-Star Games because the game, I'm going to be honest with you, Leah, it was awful. But what do you mean? The actual game? Are you kidding me? What you mean? What do I mean? The vibes were high. Leah, y'all and you, hey, listen. I'm gonna tell you, you don't have to say anything. So, I'm gonna preface, I'm going to be your vet. Don't say anything. But y'all cannot come out there with those shirts of "Pay us what you owe us." Pay yes. Pay us what you owe us and then do that. In the All-Star Game. It wasn't the fact that you're doing something to prove why you have to be paid. I think it was just an opportunity to me on one of the biggest stages with those shirts being worn, along with giving the product because I tried to watch the All-Star Game. I'll be honest, but after one slow Euro step and people split up for I was like, I can't. I'm a fan of the WBA and I can't watch this. So I just think that, no, you all didn't have to, but I think it was an opportunity that you could have built on more momentum. It was blunt, it was honest, and it was everything the mob didn't want to hear. Candace Parker isn't defending Caitlin Clark for clout. She's doing it because she understands the WNBA's growth depends on stars like Caitlin, and on leaders willing to tell the truth even when it's unpopular. While others protect egos or avoid controversy, Candace is playing the long game. She knows that when Caitlin returns healthy, Indiana will be a legitimate contender. And when they're winning exciting games, the fans will show up by the millions. We've already seen it. When Caitlin came back against the Liberty, she delivered one of the most electric performances of the year, and millions tuned in to watch. Bridgefield House logo. Caitlin shakes up Rebecca Gardner driving right lane. Baker good plus a foul. Rebound fever. Cunningham got knocked to the floor. Caitlin pulls left wing, buries it. She is back. 24-18 fever now. Caitlin now from the right wing, 30 plus feet. Then again, no one else but Caitlin Clark. Senate handoff. Caitlin from the logo, crosses over, launches. Oh my goodness. Are you kidding? Most dynamic player in the game. 9 points in 38 seconds for Caitlin. She hit all 3 threes. This is what leadership looks like. Checking your ego at the door. Standing up for what's right, even if it puts a target on your back. And refusing to bend to a mob more interested in short-term point scoring than the league's long-term success. Candace Parker is that leader. And the WNBA would be smart to listen. If you're still watching, drop a trophy emoji in the comments so Candace Parker gets the flowers she's EA.